Bonjour.
We are back again after another hiatus.
Life necessitates.
Life happens. So, welcome to episode 9.
Some like it hot, hot, hot. There you go.
Okay, first topic. Let's get right in. Flying during flying during COVID. So we recently took some flights in our lives.
Indeed.
All
right. Just set it up there. Just hit it out the park there.
Yep.
We took flights. So we went to Vancouver from Toronto. And the flying process is interesting. Not really the flying itself or the sitting. It's more so the humans that you have to fly with. It shows you interesting sides of many characters that you fly with by how they wish to adhere, quote unquote, or not adhere to the requirements during flight. I.e., wait a second. Yeah. Flying during COVID. It's just it's an interesting time. One of our flights had this really, really large fat woman with who used their whole body as like a tattoo canvas of terrible tattoo. And I don't know if it was due to her size or her eye for art.
Okay, let's just get one thing straight. Mm-hmm. Regardless of your size, some people just look dirty.
Yeah, she was a dusty,
big-looking thing. Some people just look dusty, like they don't take showers, or like they just radiate sweat and stench.
Her creases look like they were offensive.
Like, there are also other larger people who don't look dirty. They look like they take showers. She did not look like she takes showers.
She looked like she was pissed that she might have had to take one before the flight.
Yeah, she looked like it was out of her routine to take a daily shower. Yeah. Her tattoos were... I have tried to get better at not shaming tattoos. Try to be
This
open.
means brave. It's been confirmed.
Let's not look at it.
By Kicking Peaches.
Trying to be... Shout out to Kicking Peaches.
There you go.
But trying to be, just open and be like, your body, your choice. If you want to have something that looks... What did her tattoo say?
So it was something along the lines, forgive me if I'm misquoting, my brain has been broken, my heart has been stabbed, there are tears on my chest, but still I smile, or some nonsense of literature that you're supposed to go through and maybe understand her. I don't even know what the point is. Because if you stare long enough, she might headbutt you or something, or wipe her armpits and throw residual sweat on you.
She also didn't look like a nice person.
Not at all.
She looked annoyed with life. She looked like she did not she did not want to be there. I don't know. She looked like she didn't want to be walking.
She looked like she couldn't walk, like she was leaning on the seats and blocking people. And she wore her mask in the most annoying fashion. I presume it's because she's so big she can't breathe naturally without the obstruction. So she covered just her mouth. And it's like, if you have to breathe through your nose exclusively because you're trying to cover your mouth, the mask is irrelevant because you're not directing any of your breathing through your mouth. So she's just spewing this fat, fat air coming out of her nose. If you've seen F is for Family, think of the airport guy there. What's his name?
The manager.
The manager was like,
yeah.
Now imagine that through your nose.
To be fair, that is pretty much who she was like. And again, I am body positive, but she looked dirty as shit. So she wasn't following the health protocols at all. So to get a better idea of what flying during COVID is actually like, you get to the airport, you take your temperature before you get into security, You go through security, socially distanced. So at Pearson, at least in Toronto,
space between the buckets where you dump your shit.
Yeah, they would wait for you to, like, you can't. They tell you when to go to your buckets. You don't just like automatically go. And then when you're waiting for your flight, I think that the WestJet attendant who was like doing the front desk stuff, he did a good job of constantly reminding people, like, please wear your mask. Mm-hmm. Make sure your mask is over your nose and your mouth. Like, he said it 3 announcement times. Please remember, like, if you are eating, at least go, try to keep socially distanced. Mm-hmm. So I saw some people like get up out of their seat and go to where there wasn't anybody and like face the wall and eat whatever they mm-hmm. needed to. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning for people to not eat. Like, that would suck. Yeah. So he did a good job of like being mindful that people still need to do regular human functions in order to be able to do the safety protocols, to be able to wear their mask for the entire flight. So we had to wear a mask for the entire flight. I have a valve on my mask, and they didn't allow me to wear that type of a mask on the plane, which I thought was weird because there's a valve, but then underneath the valve, there's like a layer and then another layer. So there's a valve.
Basically mask.
Yeah, it's like 3 masks in one. And the valve just helps you because of all of the layers, because there's also a filter in it. So I was like going in thinking, okay, cool. I have like a pretty decent mask. Then they say I can't use it. And they give me this like parchment paper surgical mask. And I was like, okay, guess I'll wear this. But so if you have a valve on your mask, you cannot use that on the plane.
Big on the valve.
Nope. And then there were people on the plane. Everybody was on the plane. There was no social distancing on the plane because one of the passengers actually pointed this out to the flight attendants and asked, like, oh, aren't we supposed to be spaced out? What happened to the spacing out of the seats? And the flight attendant said that on July 1st or July 11th, Air Canada and WestJet both lifted their restrictions on spacing people out on planes because they found research that indicates that doesn't actually help at all, because it's just all recycled air anyways, and it all gets pushed through the entire plane. So no matter what, the best thing you can do is just wear a mask, right? Because all the droplets are going everywhere. So that is actually in a plane. If you want to make an argument for not wearing a mask, like out in whatever, on a plane, it makes a lot of sense because it's the same friggin' droplets just cycling through all day long, all thing long. What?
Huh?
What? You tapped me. Anyways,
flying during COVID.
Yeah.
Back to the lard bucket. What?
She was getting up a lot, and
she did not sit, and she leaned over her chair, like facing into other people, and she looked like she was so imposing and rude that you were like, you know what? I'll take the assault. I'll just take the passive assault of your fatness over me with your Darth Vader breathing. And mind you, then of course the stereotypes are a great thing. Stereotypes are a great thing because
I'm gonna let you handle that stereotype.
All right. They speak to something that is commonly occurring, that if one were to play the numbers, they'll probably win more times than they lose. So one time she got up out of her seat, squeezed herself inside the aisle to let her partner get up and use the bathroom. The man who got up was a man who was 1/3 of her girth, aka he was normal sized. And what?
Continue.
And of course he was black. And in my mind I'm like, of course. Only you would get on this plane with this big nastiness. Only you.
Big nasty.
Big nastiness.
That's a cool
And it looked like she owned him. Like she would probably slap him back into his seat, like, how dare you make me get up for you to pee. Like she looked like that. And he looked like he was in his manners, like, give him a go pee quick. He had his mask on proper. And like just breathing like that made me lightheaded. No wonder she can't wear a mask.
Yeah, like her partner The dude that she was with, totally wearing his mask proper.
Like a friendly man.
Totally looked super nice.
Stuck
Did not
in
look
fatness.
dirty. Didn't look dirty. He looked like he takes showers and changes his clothes every day. She looks like she was wearing like a hot pink like tank top, so you could see her tattoos. I think
Everything
she wanted
was just
people to see.
out.
And her tank top looked dirty, and it was like, how old was your tank top? So
As crusty as them tattoos.
they were not the best.
She was a canvas board of emotional statements to like reinforce to herself, like, I should keep breathing like this, in brackets. It was
It looked like she had a bunch of her friends
self-motivational
who
quotes.
were okay, sure, but also like they were tattoo apprentices and they weren't that great yet, and they needed a canvas, and so they did it on her. It's like if you got someone who was just learning how to tattoo to do a portrait and like half the face drooped or something like that.
If you've seen King of Staten Island, think of Pete Davidson's tattoos.
Yeah.
All over a fat,
Or-
very pink canvas due to like being flushed from heat or something. Like
Stop.
Listen, she was gross. Her visuals assaulted my brain.
God.
I'm just being factual
Okay.
about my body's reaction to her.
Yes, I just think she looks dirty. And I didn't like that she didn't wear her mask properly, because if she would have just kept to herself, fine. But she was like going up and down the aisle. Let me take a piss every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Let me just breathe on top of everybody as I go through
And
the
the
aisle.
thing is,
like,
when she goes through the aisle, she has to go diagonal, diagonal, diagonal. So she's
Yeah, she
rubbing
does-
every
she-
seat.
due to
and
her
then
size,
she's stalling.
due to her size, she definitely could not go down the aisle comfortably.
If
because
I was
the aisle
that
real
size,
short.
I would restrict myself to my damn seat. Like one time I was flying, and a woman who is larger than her seat would allow for a single seat. Her cuisse, her thigh, cuisse, it's French for thigh. Her thigh was all up in my seat. Now I had a couple options. I was like, either I tell the flight attendant, excuse me, while I speak over this larger woman, excuse me, but I paid for a full seat, but this woman's body is infringing upon my seat space. Can I either have a new seat or is it possible to move her to a seat where she can occupy two? Because I paid for a single seat. But I decided, you know what? We don't always know what people are going through. Maybe she's got like diabetes or something. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's a reason why she can't not be that large. Or maybe she can't afford to pay for two seats. Who knows, whatever her reasoning is. But I was being infringed upon for her weight girth. I'm just saying, her girth was infringing upon my space. But then I learned something. Flying is considered public transit. Therefore, your seat is not actually your jurisdiction completely, just an allotment of a space for you to call yours, but not all of it is necessarily bordered. So imagine if you're on a public bus and somebody's rubbing you. You can't get mad at them being in your personal space because it's public transit. So I learned that. But WestJet said, thank you for not making a scene and making that woman uncomfortable due to her girth. And for that, we'll give you a $75 credit. So I was like, you know what?
See?
Even though I wanted my seat free because I had to deal with fat thigh on my body the whole time, $75 still is like halfway to a one-way. So it was a net gain to deal with fatness. But if it was Lord Girthmaster from this COVID flight, I would have said, excuse me, she's breathing through her nose and she's not wearing a mask and she's doing it very, very grossly and she's large. Can we address this?
So, in conclusion, WestJet rewards people for not
Fat shaming.
Fat shaming. Mm-hmm.
So always, actually, now that I think about it, always call and say, yeah, I had a seat issue where a fat woman was in my seat with me. And I actually, so on my WestJet flight, while she was sleeping, I took a picture of her extending past the arm bar into my seat, so I had ocular evidence. But if you don't have that, you can Photoshop it because they probably won't contest.
Stop.
No, think about it. They're a large enough corporation where you can get away with, like, they wouldn't give me money back, and then you just show your doctored image and make sure you get it done by somebody who knows how to use Photoshop very well.
But that's also dishonest. If they're not actually,
Who cares?
if they're not actually infringing on your seat, and you just take a picture. If I just took a picture of you and enlarged your thigh to infringe on my seat, and then sent and said, "Oh, this large man was infringing on my seat," that's lying.
So
I'm not a fan of lying.
that's
people
fine.
are.
No, it's not that I'm a fan of lying. I'm a fan of playing capitalism.
Sure, but I still have morals where I will not lie. Anyways, conclusion.
No, listen, there's no moral issue here. These companies would pillage and plunder your pocket given the opportunity.
Okay, that's fair. If it's to a company.
Well, who is WestJet?
A company.
Okay. So listen, I play in big game. You want my money, I take your money too.
But only if I'm going to be guaranteed that I would get that money. Because that just seems like a lot of effort.
No, you just take a picture, call, or send an email, contact us. Hey, I don't want to take this public to the news saying that you guys aren't providing adequate seating and you're not honoring your 2-seat policy for those who can't fit within one. The media backlash is not worth the $75 that they could just give me to shut me up. Always play the numbers. Play the numbers. That's free flights after a while. Come on now. Capitalize on people's fatness, I guess is the lesson from flying during COVID.
It's the lesson for you, not for me.
Okay.
My lesson of flying during COVID is that it's gross, just like every other flight before COVID, where if you sit next to people who are like that, or if you sit next to people who are like sweaty or old and farty or anything.
Manspreaders. I was having a hard time not saying something on your behalf for the man sitting to your left, whose legs were spread into your jurisdiction. It was giving me anxiety. I was like, I wish a motherfucker would. I'd say, excuse me, sir, or I'd hit his leg with mine until I get to the meat. I'm like, oh.
It was nasty.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were in my space.
I didn't want to touch him. He bumped me every so often, and he would say, excuse me, so it's not like he was being a dick, but like he was a flying V is what he was.
If I was in that middle seat, he would have been a flying U.
Well, the thing is,
maybe a flying
I'm small
V
enough
backwards.
that I can like just zip,
relinquish your rights.
I can not touch him. Well, this is the thing is, I don't want to touch him and I don't want to talk to him. So, and it wasn't that big of a bother.
It was bothering me just looking at it. Like, rights being infringed upon, jurisdiction being infringed upon. Move yourself.
His knee wasn't really in my seat, though.
No, but it was past the median of where his seat ended.
Sure, but you could argue that for you as well, when you're sitting, the plane seats are really small.
Yeah, but I could sit there properly.
You could.
He took advantage of you. Wouldn't have taken advantage of me.
So in conclusion, I'm meek and I concede to all other people.
I call out dusty fatness and privilege.
Yeah. Anyways.
Good times.
Next topic is related, which is mask shaming.
Mm-hmm. So, what I like to do is I like to stare at people. I just give them a really long stare to the point where it gets awkward, where it's like, why is he staring at me? Why is he staring? This is uncomfortable. But then it makes you assess, or it makes some people assess, why is this happening? Then it's like, trigger. But some people are like, fuck it. I don't care if you stare at me. I'm one of them sometimes. Like where I don't put it over my nose occasionally.
When do you do that?
Like if I've been like running, or if I'm like sweaty, or if I've been exerting more energy than like standard base level, it makes me need to breathe more, as if I was an oversized fat lover, right? Like Heavy D or something. R.I.P. Right? Where was I going? So yeah, I can understand and empathize where sometimes you can't breathe through the mask, especially if you have glasses. That's the biggest issue for me. When you have glasses and the steam's going up and you're trying to catch your breath, I understand going to the side, getting a few of those deep breaths in and then coming back. But some people it's usually old people and immigrants who have no respect for the science of the mask's implication. Like, they don't see how they're, like, my mother included, pisses me off. I took a flight with her. And this woman gets on the blasted plane, sitting beside another old woman. And the other woman's trying to talk to her. And my mom does this. And leans in takes it off her nose and leans in to talk more, and then when she can't hear, takes it all off. It's like, but wait, what kind of nonsense is this? What the asshole is going on? So yeah, now how you shame your mother, you have to be tactful, because you got to be tactful, because you have to consider, you don't want to break her spirit with your words, but you also have to address the stupidity. So it's understood. No, but it's for her health at the same time. Because if she's doing foolish, think of your child going to school and switching masks because they think it's cool. They don't mean to be foolish, but it's foolish. No? So I was 2 rows behind her, and I'm watching her do this, and in my mind I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But I had to find a way after the flight to maybe find a stern but forward but accurate way to address the foolishness that my mother was partaking in. So I was like, Mom, it's probably best to keep the mask on when you lean in to talk to strangers on a 5-hour flight, not to take it off. And, it's not the people at my work telling me to put the mask on my nose. Yeah! She works in an old folks home. This is what I mean by the immigrants tend to not have as much respect for the science, kind of like how they like Christianity. They're just like, I love Jesus. Doesn't matter what you tell me, I love Jesus. They might not, if the ignorance is very prevalent in those who have less respect or consideration for the science that is being advised to them about how the mask should be incorporated in their day-to-day life. You can tell when there's people who don't have an understanding of the purpose because they just say, oh, well, it's on my face. It's on my mouth.
I would like to strongly disagree with the blanket term of immigrants, because there are a lot of immigrants who have been wearing masks since day one.
Good point.
They're Asian immigrants, and they go to TNT. You're not going to get COVID there. Never have, never will. Because every Asian that comes here
is mask assimilated.
Yeah, it's the norm there. So those immigrants, they're well aware of how to wear a mask because they wear them every day. Check those Chinese grandmas who are collecting your cans in the park.
Yes.
They wear masks.
Duly noted, corrected, and let me
Also, my mom's an immigrant. She's not Chinese. She wears her mask properly, and she wears it. Yeah, but not like really. She speaks Tagalog, so she's more Filipino. But she also didn't grow up in a country that wears masks all the time.
Indeed.
So she came in, she wears her mask all the time. She wears it in the car. No one else is with her.
Reframe that. I exclude Asian immigrants from that stereotype because within Asian immigration, there's been more prevalence of face masks, whether you are from China or not. There's more history with using masks. So it's less of a education process right now versus I know what I'm supposed to do. But non-Asian immigrants who are not accustomed to mask wearing are fucking terrible at using it. And it's usually the old ones, like the old, like an old man who's got the mask over like his bottom lip. It's like, you fucker, I can't even tell you something because you're old. Like, I look like I'm assaulting the old if I say, hey, dummy, put your mask on.
I will say though that the immigrants that I've seen in Toronto tend to wear their masks
poorly.
While also in
Montreal. Listen, I get out of the airport in Montreal. I choose an Uber that has the barrier in back, and all Ubers are wearing face masks at this point. This fucking idiot Montrealer. Disclaimer, Montreal's full of stupidity, period, through and through. It's prevalent. It's fucking ingrained. It's deep-rooted. Think of water and sand. It's all in there. It's just retardation level on an exponential level on so many fucking planes. That being said, the man gets out of his car with his mask under his fucking salt and pepper beard to help us with our luggage, and then gets back inside the car. And then, now, for his rating, I gave him 3 stars. Like, come on now.
Generous.
Yeah, because I have to be cautious because my rating scale is very harsh, and they might ban me eventually for giving people such poor ratings. It'd be in their best interest. So it was like, what's the fucking point? It's on your chin. are you that retarded? But then I remembered, as I always tell you, never let your mind enter a logical space when dealing with Quebec in general. Because that's true. Where you're at fault, because nothing works with logic. It's all, I'm going to take care of me, even if it means killing myself in the long run. Because you know what? Fuck it. Vive le Québec. Je me souviens.
That is where I have seen the most poor display of mask wearing. And also poor display of social distancing.
Yeah.
So where were we? Mount Royal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in Mount Royal Park, like doing a walk when there's no one around because we were in the house the whole time.
Yeah.
Basically quarantining and needed to get out. So we were waiting to pay for parking and everybody was socially distant. Mm-hmm. Except for these.
Your titas.
My titas in the back was like, maybe she thought that we were part of the barbecue. So she was really, like.
Toe to heel.
Yeah. But that's not the only case. Like there are lots of places where people, even in the airport in Vancouver.
That dude behind you, it's like, sometimes you got to leave your luggage. See, I feel like people don't do to you, like they don't do to me what they do to you. For whatever unconscious reason, like they invade your space. Since COVID, since we've been traveling, your space gets invaded more than mine, I find.
Well, I also find that there are very big differences between you and me that I like stereotypically, which is like, I look like someone who you can invade their space.
Fair.
Even if I don't speak or move, it automatically is like, oh, I'm not a big person. I'm 5 feet tall and I'm Asian. And so there's like a quiet, small Asian over there. You're a 6'1" black man.
Fair.
And even if you don't say anything, if you don't move.
Stare with I am the captain eyes through my mask.
Always I am the captain
nasty,
eyes.
like I'm going to hurt you with these eyeballs.
Yes, and they're big and my eyes are small. So even if I have expressions, I also don't have very much, like my eyebrows aren't that much. So if I don't draw them fiercely and I don't open my eyeballs, you won't even know what expressions I have when I have a mask on. But you are very expressive and your eyebrows are already, in shapely, angry form, that if you just add a little flair with your eyeballs, then people know not to fuck with you. But that's not the same for me.
Well, what I'm going to start doing with like rolling carry-ons is hitting people's shoes behind me. Oh, I
did that to that guy.
See, but it would have been like, oh, I'm on your ankles now. Like,
oh no, I don't.
It's a grading scale. Now it's on your kneecaps.
I don't. I'm not gonna roll my luggage onto someone's kneecaps.
It's accidental.
But I was pushing back my luggage into his feet. And then I hit his feet a couple times, but then he kept still doing it, which I thought was weird.
No, that's what I'm saying. A grading scale of pain.
Yeah,
In the words of Greta Pain, those who can't hear shall feel. Sometimes you gotta be like, oh, sorry about that, bud. Didn't mean to hit your kneecap and crack it. Because at that point, he might think you're a dick, but he's not gonna get close to you again.
Anyways, people who don't stay 6 feet away.
My body, my choice. If not, I'm gonna fuck you up with my carry-on.
You don't even have a rolling carry-on.
Swing it around like a helicopter.
You don't even have a rolling carry-on.
I'm gonna take yours next time, so I can be assaulting people left, right, and fucking center.
Stop it.
Okay, sorry.
And then there are just people. I think that was the weird thing going from Toronto to Vancouver. I noticed that in Vancouver, not a lot of people are wearing masks because it hasn't been mandatory.
They only made it mandatory August 24th.
24th on transit. And it's still not a mandate to do it in public.
Here comes the R word. It's retarded.
It's still not a mandate to do it in indoor spaces. It's like the stores can put signs that say you're required to wear a mask, which means that you can't go in if you don't have a mask. But here in Toronto, it's like you must wear a mask to go indoors.
When we leave our apartment door, we have to have a mask before we get outside of the building. There are
specific signs, like not paper bulletins. They're like
metallic plaques saying "Put your mask on,
that are
motherfucker."
Permanent. But in Vancouver, there's like people, all these hipsters lining up for food, ordering food with no mask on, talking at the person. I'm like, okay, first you're not socially distancing. No, me too. And I thought they would be better because we always hear over here, oh, Dr. Bonnie Henry is leading the charge. BC is the model province for whatever. And I'm like, dude, we've had to.
I think Toronto's done the best job looking at it now between the three cities.
Yeah, considering the fact that the population density and the steady declination, over time, even if there are some spikes, obviously it's the weekend or a holiday or whatever, makes sense, but over time, you'll see it go like this, more so than like this, or more so than like this. So given the population density here and what was put in Toronto City, Toronto, didn't go into phase 3 until like, I don't know.
I can't even remember when.
Maybe a month ago. Maybe a month ago now. But all the other suburbs, or all the other cities, I should say, in Ontario went into phase 3 before Toronto. It took like Toronto maybe a month and a half or 2 months to go into phase 3 before everyone else. And so people here were definitely, we've had to wear masks for 2 months mandatory since like June 1st, I think. Whereas in Vancouver, it was only recent. And it was weird to me to not see it, and to not like people just go into the grocery store no mask.
Yeah.
Here, you see everybody like stopping right before they get in to like put it on. And
I gotta say,
yeah,
even though like new resident in theory to the province, not inclined to vote conservative or liberal in the provincial elections, but must say Doug Ford's leadership on the process, no premier has been perfect, but how he's gotten buy-in from the overall populace must be commended. Because when you go into other jurisdictions and you realize, if you take scale into consideration, the impact that he's able to apply to get things on track is admirable. There's definite like positive work in Ontario, like making sure that it's contained as well as possible, aside from the schooling plans, but that's all jurisdictions. The school plans that they got are all fucked. In Quebec, they recently announced that 47 schools have at least reported 1 case of COVID since reopening. It hasn't even been a week. Like, I think they see the financial ramifications of keeping parents and kids at home versus the likelihood of death. And they're like, well, we got to choose one of the options here. Somebody's going to die no matter what, but the economy's got to go on. Capitalism always wins. And I think how they're deciding how the schools are reopening shows that, even though they're not blatantly saying it like that, they're saying we can't afford to have parents at home. They need to be working.
Yeah.
So fuck the kids. Stats show that young people aren't dying from it, so fuck the kids. I think that's what they're basically doing. But then fuck the teachers who are going to be dealing with that, which sucks.
I feel like all of the governments, as best as they can do, capitalism still rules all the governments. So the economy's like money makes the world go around. So regardless of how safe it is, or whether or not people are mentally prepared or mentally ready or whatever that is, things are going to start reopening. The economies, they're trying to find ways to build up the economies. Like, look at the freaking flight we were on that was packed. It was basically, oh, okay, we don't have to. All right, let's fill it up. Like, let's fill those up. Even though people might not be ready to fly under those circumstances. Too bad, so sad. These are the regulations. We're going to make money. We need to recoup from the fact that we weren't making money during quarantine and lockdown. So everybody needs to work on recouping. Everybody needs to work on rebuilding the economy. And it doesn't
pesos back, bitch.
It doesn't really matter whether or not safety or mental health is a part of it. It's about rebuilding the economy now that it seems safe enough to start doing so. Which, in conclusion, just wear a mask.
Fair.
Properly.
Yeah.
On to a completely different topic: sports protests.
I think this one is a more political question than the others. The other ones are more so capitalism questions. This one is even though it shouldn't be a political question, it breaks down along the political lines, because people on the right tend to look at things factually, people on the left tend to look at things emotionally. And what is causing the protest is something that is going to incite a lot of emotion from the left, and the left controls most of the media, so you're going to get a lot of their concerns saturating the airwaves, social media. But then you have the right, who in a moment like this knows it's not the best time to be the loudest voice, but still has valid statements on the topic, but it only further enrages the discussion. Before jumping into it, like looking at, so Jacob Blake, I believe that's his name. I'm terrible with names. To be honest, I haven't watched the video. don't want to, seen enough. I think it's noticeable now amongst all black men, and I've noticed it's not just me. We can't watch them anymore. For George Floyd, that one made me break down. I'm not willing to look at them again. I've seen enough. Aside from that, it caused a lot of, like, a man shouldn't be shot 7 times in his back when there are like 4 officers right there within arm's reach of him. Before he gets to a vehicle, they could have restrained him if they felt he was a threat. There are so many tools at their disposal before putting 7 bullets in his back in front of his children inside of his car when he wasn't the main instigator of the reason for the call to police. There are just many other ways, but I think it speaks to the fact, like, I also don't think 9 out of 10 police officers who commit these heinous crimes, I don't believe they instinctively or consciously hate black people, but through systemic institutionalization of thought, like more is caught than is taught, something that is very true. They have an ingrained fear of blackness, that they don't have a rational reaction to blackness in situations that require instinctive reactions that need to be safe. And I think that's what the overarching issue is. Now, that being said, the NBA being the blackest of all sports leagues, trying to bring attention to the issue is very admirable, and I understand the reason. But at the same time, the criticism from the right of saying, okay, you stopped playing for 2 days. Is racism fixed? That's a valid question. That's a very valid question. And you stopping for 2 days, what changed? Now, what changed? We'll have to see. For example, so the NHL, they played their games the first night, then they got chastised, and white guilt kicked in, and now they're the loudest with all their affirmative actions that they've put in place, the plans that they have and everything, yada, yada, yada. White guilt gets the most reactions from white people. That doesn't mean it's the most sincere reaction. I had a conversation with one of my Vancouver friends who I put on the spectrum of right wing, and any concern for black lives is more so them being pushed into that feeling due to the social narrative, not necessarily a sincere concern, because their voting habits would still reflect the opposite. Their wishes politically, socioeconomically will still reflect the opposite. They might understand on a micro level, on an individual level, one-on-one, I value your life, but on a macro level, it still is, no, I'm going to vote for things that aren't in your best interest. So be it. And they pointed out, like, racism is over now after those 2 days of protests. And it seems like they're pushing a sore spot, but it's also a valid assessment of what the hell did the protests do? So I'm for the protest, but I'm also not against people saying, what the hell did the protests do? I'd like to see more concrete action from the protests, or having a plan before you protest, because then it just seems like an emotional reaction to a situation that is way more tactical, more so akin to chess versus checkers. And I feel like the NBA is a checkers league. We're angry. We're telling you that we're angry, but we don't know what's going to change. What's your take on the protests?
I agree to some extent that postponing games isn't going to do anything in terms of ending racism, but I also don't think that was the purpose. So asking that question of, so is it going to end racism? The obvious answer is no, because nothing is going to end racism that we can really foresee right now. Like, I don't think anybody has an answer to that. They have an answer to reducing white supremacy. There's an answer to reducing white privilege, to pulling back ignorance, to educating white people on what white privilege is, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it. So yeah, there are things that those protests can do, but I still do think that protesting on that scale, when it's like a national association, it's a big association that reaches kids, that reaches all demographics, that there needs to be an intention behind the protest, not just a Like, I'm an activist.
Protesting.
I'm protesting, which is what, essentially that's what protesting came from. Mad people. Mm-hmm. Let's protest. So there's an element of that should not be ruled out or devalued. This is the essence of a protest: anger, want, like an urgency for change. That's what makes protests what they are. Mm-hmm. So I do think that that's valid, and they're allowed to be angry. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do, as players, as teams, as an association. But because of the platform that they have, it needs to be intentional. It can't just be.
It needs to be tactful.
Yeah, it can't just be, let's show up to the police, like let's all the NBA players show up at the police department and then like protest. It can't be something like that. It has to be, we're postponing because they have a platform, they need to make it clear why they are protesting to the large demographic that they have. They do need to communicate. The goal of us postponing these games is to show you that this is how much power we have. And what does that power mean for us? What do we want to do with that power? We would rather you pay attention to what's going on in the world than watch sports, because that's how we feel. But that also needs to come sincerely from the players.
It's got to be communicated properly.
It can't be like, we're doing this because we should. We're doing this because, as one of the largest sports organizations that have Black players, we should be a part of it. I think sincerity is a really hard thing to convey as sincere when it's through a medium like media, because media automatically puts a filter on sincerity. So it doesn't matter how much you cry or how intense something is for you. Everybody's going to scrutinize something that they see through media, on social media, on TV, whatever it is. So it's hard to really say, well, it needs to be sincere, but it still does. And so if there are players who are saying, I can't play because I don't feel it, I'm not feeling it. Like, I can't play my best because what's going on is really affecting me. Like the way that you said George Floyd's video made you break down. Mm-hmm. Well, the repetitiveness of thinking about all of these things that are happening, being in the media, being a Black player, representing a community, knowing that there are kids who look up to you, knowing that that's your platform, whether you accept that you're a role model or not, people are looking up to you as their favorite player or whoever, you're in the media. For your sincerity as a player to come through will speak volumes to the goal of the protest in general. Because this is saying, look, we make up this, like, without us as players, you don't have a league. Mm-hmm. Without us, like, if you even think to the adversity that Black players from communities that are lower income, low socioeconomic class, who don't get the same opportunity as white players, they have to duke it out. Mm-hmm. They have to fight it out, work harder, work 5 times harder than anybody else to get where they are. And then you condition them through your white privileged league that is white owned to play a certain way, think a certain way, think that you're achieving things when you're just checkers.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot to be said about that. So for I think the effectiveness of them postponing is directly tied to their stake in being part of the NBA. Mm-hmm. To know that I came from this place, I represent these people, I'm part of this community, and I'm saying no because I'm essentially being controlled by it. Those are the people who pay me. So I need to tell them I'm like going on strike, like a worker strike. Yeah. It needs to be like that. Not we're protesting because XYZ. It's not as clear of a connection. Whereas if you're saying my job is to play basketball, I'm going on strike because the people I work for, the people who pay me, they're not doing shit right. We need to do better as a league. We need to be better as people, whatever that is. But the intention needs to be really, really clear. And I think that the protests didn't do that, personally, for me. I didn't feel like the goal was really clear. It was just like, no, in reaction to this, we're not doing it. We stand in solidarity, which is our blanket terms, which I still think is good. Like, you should be doing this.
But more could be done with that power.
Yes,
like,
100%.
I feel like, so if a player from the NBA is boycotting playing, they're not boycotting, like, in direct relation, they're not boycotting racism or police brutality. They're boycotting their employer.
Yes.
So it's like a mixed message. So what you should be saying is, my employer, I have an issue with the way the world is running right now. Now, I need you to support me fixing this issue by making sure that when I say I'm not playing, you support me not playing, and you're going to support me in other ways because you feel as if my issue is your issue.
Yeah.
That's a different story than saying we're not playing because police brutality, because all you're doing is taking money out of your pockets, taking money out of the owner's pockets, and not doing anything with the money that you've lost. All you've done is lost money in theory, aka you've lost effectiveness, because money can help fix the issues that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, with the NHL, the Hockey Diversity Association, I like that they had a plan for what they wanted. They said, like, one of their main asks was, we want the owners of these NHL rinks to use the rinks as polling places for communities, so this way they can get access to voting. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, we're not playing until you help us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
I can respect that, because that had a impact. Like, that has a goal that can have an impact versus I'm not playing.
That also has a visible goal that can be achieved.
And people can agree with.
People can agree with it, and also whether you're racist or not, whether you're a closet racist or not, it's gonna happen. Like there's no, you can still, as a racist, you can still go into those places and vote differently. But the fact is, there's an opportunity there to have a fair battle. There's
an opportunity for equality.
Yeah,
it's a promotion of what is missing. Yeah. So you can acquire something of value from this protest.
Because I think that in sports specifically, equity is not just in pay, but equity is an opportunity. If you don't get the opportunities, then you don't get paid, period. So if white players or white schools or kids who have higher socioeconomic classes, come from better educations, have the opportunities, why not create the avenue to make opportunity equal? Yeah. And therefore that gives more kids from communities like Black kids or Black communities the opportunities, the same opportunities, so that it's fair. Like, okay, let's not have anything else other than skill be the reason why we get into play.
Yeah.
Let's not have anything other than skill be the reason why we win games or why we win the Stanley Cup or why we win anything else. It's skill based, and then that you can say, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I really like Ryan Reeves being the only quote unquote Black player left in the NHL playoffs. The fact that all the players went to him and asked, like, they respected the fact that he's the only person who can represent authentically the issue. The fact that they were willing to cede to him being on the forefront and actually supporting him with their bodies, that was valuable. And the thing about hockey culture, which can get them in trouble at the same time, even if for better or worse, hockey culture, you're taught to not stand out. If not, you'll get nailed down. So I understand the players not wanting to, especially when you're a player from Finland, not deciding to protest that day, because there's no sincere skin in the game, and there's no sincere understanding of why that would be the logical process, because protesting itself doesn't make a lot of logical sense without a goal behind it. So I can understand a lot of those players being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just going to go get ready to play hockey. But I appreciate the fact that once they saw the way they were being viewed in North American social cultures, that they at least acknowledged, okay, we do need to say something. Whether we sincerely have those feelings, we can at least sincerely see that this is a valid issue, and let's see who we can speak to within our group of players who can help us understand and be a positive towards this net change versus a neutral or a net negative. So I give them respect for at least owning the fact that they were a day late and coming forward with tangible, like it was, they didn't have a knee-jerk response, which is what they got chastised for, because none of these leagues that stopped were stopped by the owners. They were stopped by the players. So you have to understand that a league that has one Black player still playing, it's actually more logical that they don't just protest, because that just means that they're following without any sincerity.
Yeah, and I think that is the biggest takeaway, is like this element of sincerity, because I believe what we should be trying to get away from as a society is fakeness. And I would rather players like a Finnish player, for example, who might not have any skin in the game, not put up this front like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, when you literally might not come from,
you're just afraid
you have
of the
no
social
context.
reaction.
I think most people are afraid to just say, I don't have a stance, because there's all this literature out right now saying silence is racist.
Violence.
Yeah, or like silence is violence, or it's not enough to, silence is worse than whatever. It's basically trying to make sure that people are aware of why.
Why not?
Is it a statement?
No.
Okay. It's distracting. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Players' insincere reactions.
Oh. I really don't remember what I was gonna say.
Fake sincerity, saying things for the sake of just saying them, being afraid of their reaction of silence is violence.
Yeah. That about sums it up, sure.
Fair.
I really don't remember.
Oh well.
But yeah, I think if people are going to protest, you have a right to be angry, you have a right to protest, but at least have something to follow it up. Because now, we watched an NBA game. We're gonna watch an NBA game today. Like, what followed their postponement of the games? Not.
In all honesty, I was more so annoyed that I didn't have any hockey or NBA to watch. That sounds selfish, but that's the raw, honest answer of most fans. They're like, I don't know why you're stopping. I just have nothing to watch now.
Yeah. What you could do instead of stopping, you could do both. You could be at the beginning of the games before you do the anthems.
Speech.
You could say,
talk about things.
In light of what has just occurred, here's what we're going to do. We're playing tonight because we understand how this actually helps the community's mental health, but we need to make sure that you know what we're doing while we are playing.
Yeah.
Playing, we don't have to choose between doing what's right and playing basketball and doing our jobs. We can do both, and here's how.
Maybe say, we will continue to play, but if our demands for assistance from the owners who we enrich are not met within a week, we will be boycotting the season. Like, have a plan. Yeah. And then I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, fuck the NBA if they don't do this. But if you're just saying, I ain't playing, I'm like, well, I got nothing to watch other than the news of the man getting shot.
Fair.
I don't need, if anything, I need something else than that right now.
True.
Yeah, we're supposed to protest.
R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Topic number 4. Mr. Please, 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 please.
Mr. Jackie Robinson.
Indeed. Thurgood Marshall.
And of course,
the Black Panther.
The King of Wakanda.
Indeed.
Just passed away
from
stage 4 colon cancer, which he had been diagnosed with 4 years ago, and he died at the age of 43.
Indeed. It's not really a topic to discuss, more so just
to lament.
Yeah, just to talk about what it means, what he meant, what he will mean, what we can learn. Like, as a black man, I'll go off topic before I come back to him. When my dad started going to get screened for colon cancer, because as black men, we are very predisposed due to our diets and our genealogy to having colon cancer. As a kid, we almost clowned him when we found out what he was going to go do. Basically have a man put their finger in your asshole. It was treated as if, that's gay shit, quote unquote. And you could see that even though my dad knew that it was something he should do, and he knew that the chastising wasn't relevant because it was important and maybe we were too young to understand or too naive and or ignorant. You could tell the way that we chastised him for it, it took a little bit of confidence out of him in some ways. Black men are notoriously homophobic culturally due to the toxic nature of hip hop and all that stuff that it imbues within us. We are very much too far away from the center of the spectrum in terms of accepting sensitive topics. One being a man putting their finger in your asshole, whether it's for your health or not. It creates a larger stigma than it needs to, and causes us to be more at risk for dying from what we're supposed to be screening from. To bring it back to Chadwick Boseman, he was at stage 3 colon cancer when they found it, which leads me to believe he wasn't doing screening from an earlier age. I think it's not good, but since he's somebody who is so prevalent and powerful and important to the Black community for the roles that he portrayed and who he became himself, if there's anything we could take from this, it's we as Black men need to do a better job of taking care of our bodies. And taking care of our bodies and doing the necessary.
Listening to suggestions every now and then. And not answering like that.
And I myself, after the first day of reading that, knowing that it was colon cancer, it's something that I've always been aware that I should do, but I always put it off. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But it made me at least pull up websites to go get screening in the Toronto area and at least get the ball rolling. It's sad that death is the greatest tool for learning, at least with me and many people like me. But my brother passed away from cancer in 2017. And I used to put tobacco in my joints. He didn't die from smoking tobacco necessarily, but just it was a reason for me to eliminate things that could be a cancer insider. Something that could assist in me accruing cancer. So just little things like that, trying to find that learning the lesson that cancer provides, for better or worse. That's what I'm going to try to take away from Chadwick dying, is that not that all of the roles that he created or the roles that he played are priceless, and they've given us so much pride and quote unquote Black boy joy. To be quite honest, going to watch Black Panther, there's a certain amount of pride that gave, and the way he portrayed Jackie Robinson, somebody who got his break in Montreal, all the stories really connected to me. But what I take away from this most, aside from his obvious strength, is as Black men, we need to do a better job of taking care of our body. Plain and simple. That's my main takeaway from him. Not that he didn't take care of his body, but he wasn't proactive, or potentially wasn't as proactive as people who don't look like us tend to be when it comes to these issues.
That is a great takeaway.
I think.
At least you Googled some stuff, because as a roommate, I can definitely attest to the fact that you do not take care of yourself. Very poor at taking care of oneself. I obviously do not. I don't need a colonoscopy in the same way. There are other things that women can do in terms of our own types of cancer and things that we're predisposed to as women. But I think that him passing in the time that he did, there's this really, obviously some sort of greater purpose, not necessarily God. I would say I'm not a super religious person, but I would say that there's some sort of fabric that we're all a part of, and him dying at this time, during these times, at the height of, I feel like he had done so much in his career already, but there was so much more for him to do. They always say that the geniuses die young. They always say that the greats die young. But I think it highlights a lot of different things, because Chadwick Boseman was a very intelligent man. He was very well educated. He very, very well spoken. Not to a point where he sounds like
he's Black excellence. He wasn't woke to the point where he needed a nap. He was just if we had to put somebody out there to represent all that a black man can encompass, he was a good prototype.
And because I don't have that same context, it's maybe easier for me to just say that is excellence. That yes, it should be celebrated as Black excellence for the Black community, because those people are needed for kids to see and for people to know what's possible. That they can be someone like Chadwick Boseman. Why not? And he always said that too. Like, he, in all of his interviews, I was just telling him the other day that, like, I was rewatching all the interviews I watched of Chadwick Boseman, and like every single one, he's so positive but not preachy. He's so forward thinking but not like so irrelevant to the times. He's conversational. He can articulate himself, but in a way that's still accessible to every listening ear. He's very, like, he is excellence. Yes, he's Black excellence, 100%, but
Black
he's
excellence
also,
should equate to excellence in itself.
Exactly.
Yes.
He is excellence. He is, when I try to think of other actors that have played such pivotal roles
Denzel.
in every single role that has kind of taken him up to, Black Panther, every single role is a key figure in history. In Black history, that's important, but also in history, because he understands how film can translate into other colors.
It's a thought.
Yes, but also into other colors. So if there are white people, other people watching his films because they know who Jackie Robinson is or they know who James Brown is, at least he's able to try and be that authentic representation to educate those people through movies, which is an easy way of teaching without teaching. So I think he's a standard of excellence, because I can't really think of any other actors who have just so, like, all of the roles are just hit after hit.
Yeah.
Like, you play Jackie Robinson, holy shit. Some other actors might get one chance to play an iconic biopic. He
was our template. Like, he became our new Denzel.
Yeah. Denzel
covers all the big roles and kills them.
Yes, specific roles. And he did, I rewatched his speech to Denzel when they honored Denzel Washington. And he said,
we stand on your shoulders.
We stand on your shoulders, but he also said, like, all the sacrifices you made so that you didn't go into stereotypical roles. So that he made those same moves. Chadwick Boseman was always in the news for turning down roles that were too stereotypical. He was really intentional. He didn't do it for money. He didn't do it for fame. He was intentional with the narrative of roles that he chose for himself, and whether or not that was intentional for the community or whether that was just a personal thing for him or both, I don't know. But that's the lasting impact that I have of him.
He was centered in his place of centering was a very sound point.
Yeah.
And one of his interviews, somebody asked him, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? And it's going to stick with me forever. Knowing when to say no. Because that's the hardest thing, especially for a Black actor on top of that, or just a Black person who navigates a plethora of white spaces. We're always enticed to take the first offer because we don't have an expectation or a belief that that we deserve the one we're getting or that we'll get others. It takes strength and a whole lot of self-belief and being resolute in oneself to be able to say, no, I'll starve before I take that role.
Yeah. I
respect that so much.
I have my favorite actors, and I don't choose them right away. Like, it actually takes me a long time to be able to say, okay, I think this is my favorite actor. These are my top 5 or whatever. And we had just watched, rewatched James Brown again. We threw it on during something. And I think after watching it that time, I was like,
Bobby Bear.
I really think Chadwick Boseman is in my top 5. I remember saying that to you. I was like, I really do.
He's goated.
Not that I ever, like, it takes a lot for me. And obviously my scale is just my scale, but he is one of my favorite actors. He is one of my favorite actors, and he was in my top 5. And I had said that during quarantine, like just before he passed. And it sucks because I'm like, sweet, we watched, what's the one on Netflix? The Five Bloods?
Yeah, that was good too.
And he didn't even have a prevalent role. He was the dead guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much of an impact he has. And I even remember saying that after, and I was like, yeah, he's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
We rewatched James Brown, then we watched that, and I'm like, yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. He just has a sincerity, like a deep, deep sincerity.
And stage presence.
Yeah, and he's one of those people who doesn't like just have to talk about something. He just does it.
Get
like
this man a shield.
I feel like when Chadwick Boseman does the Wakanda Forever, it's like super authentic.
Wakanda Forever!
When he's like in interviews and stuff, because he doesn't have to really do anything. He's just like, and then you're like, okay, cool. Like when he does it, it's not. It's almost as if it's his.
It's like 50's G Unit.
No.
Only 50 can do it a certain way. That's his.
True. Chadwick Boseman can only do it a certain way. And it's a way that, like, I remember when they got back to Wakanda and he was getting off the plane with Lupita and he was, like, greeting his mom and stuff and he saw his sister. When they greeted each other, like, as siblings with Wakanda Forever, I'm like, that's what it's supposed to be. That's a sincerity of, like...
It looked like a black environment without tainting of colonialism.
Yes, and without the stereotypical, like without any
African American stereotype of blackness. It was just blackness.
Without any stereotypical connotations, it was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's encompassing of everything you would want, and some sort of cultural greeting is in that, and it's sincere. It's not like I'm doing it because we need a thing like this.
Yeah.
Like this is our thing. He's one of those, like, he doesn't have to say much to embody something.
Have a presence.
Yes. He's the type of person he's not all talk. In fact, he will talk less and he will do more, and you'll know by his actions. He's the type of person who he doesn't have to talk about how many accolades he has or how great he is.
Just watch him.
That's it. And he just does what he does. He's a very humble, but not meek. Like humble, but he knows. He walks with confidence. He walks with excellence.
Black excellence.
Yeah.
Black excellence.
Yeah, to me, both.
And because of that, even though his life was short, his impact is undeniable.
Huge. So, in conclusion, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. We will watch your movies, as we always have, over and over again.
Indeed, and looking forward to the last unreleased ones that will arrive. They will definitely be celebrated, I'm sure. And on that note, Wakanda forever. T'Challa. T'Challa. Peace.
Wait, why is our episode called Some Like It Hot, Hot, Hot?
So, some like it hot, 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 like Central Canada. It's usually hotter. But some like it Vancouver, West Coast. Hot in the day, cool at night, nice and right.
That's the end?
That's the end. Peace.